I've always had a special spot for the Halloween-centered episodes in Thomas. Some of them are actually some of the best episodes from those seasons, like Ghost Train, where Percy accidentally crashes into Flower and decides to play a trick on Thomas with it. It's a really simple story, but is lifted immensely from the cinematography, where we get these really wide shots, and the set dressing with the fog and the dead trees, giving the episode a gritty vibe. There are also other episodes that do these things well, like Halloween, Haunted Henry, Stepney Gets Lost, Scaredy Engine, and hell, even Flower Power from Season 9, which, in my opinion, I think is actually pretty underrated. It's one of the better episodes from that season, and it's got some really nice shots. But there's always been one Halloween episode that stands out from all the others. This, of course, being Crawl Space from Season 4. It's a Breaking Bad episode. Duncan Gets Spooked! That's the right one. I don't know. What was I doing? This episode is, in my opinion, the best spooky episode from Thomas. Why? Let's get into it. Oh yeah, happy Halloween, Michael Myers. Ah! The episode starts with Rusty and Peter Sam working together to clear broken branches and leaves, and then Rusty helps Peter Sam to a water tower. The trucks start to get bored and tell one another to break away from Peter Sam. So they do. As the trucks roll down the hill, they pass a sign that reads, "Slow steep bends and ravine ahead," but the trucks never see it. Then it happens. Peter Sam arrives at the scene of the disaster, and his driver says that it was their fault they never secured them properly. He also says that Topham will be annoyed, and he is.
"You will work in the yards until I can trust you again."
Duncan, being the usual asshole, is delighted in Peter Sam's dilemma.
"Fancy not securing your freight cars on a hill. They'll come back to spook you and your special funnel." Woo!
Rusty butts in and asks Duncan if he's afraid of ghosts. Duncan says he isn't, and Rusty decides to tell a story that he thinks will scare Duncan.
"A long time ago, a little engine was returning home. Suddenly, the engine lost control and plunged over the side into the swamps below. He was never found again. But many a workman will tell you that when the moon is full, they have seen the little engine trying to get home, but he never reaches the other side."
Duncan calls the story rubbish and storms off. Rusty then tells Peter Sam not to mind him, and this gives Peter Sam's driver an idea. He talks to Duncan's driver and fireman, and they all agree. Duncan has to take coal to the slate mines and then bring slate trucks back, and Duncan's driver decides that on their route, they'll go over the old bridge. Duncan talks to himself, saying the entire story is rubbish, but all the while, he's still thinking about it. Then, dusk falls and Duncan wants to go back, but his driver states that they can't leave until every truck is unloaded. When night falls, they set off on their journey back to the yard. The night has a full moon and mist is rising around the bridge. As Duncan puffs onto the bridge, he suddenly stops. Ahead, he notices lights flickering. To Duncan, the lights, which are only little insects, resemble an engine. Next, his driver throws a rock into the ravine and Duncan gets spooked.
It's the episode's name.
Anyways, he yells for his driver to take him back, and they puff away from the bridge. Once they reach the slate mines and he gets into the safety of his own shed, Duncan closes his eyes. His driver jokes about him being scared, and Duncan says he's asleep and refuses to open his eyes. He does open them, though, only when his driver wasn't looking, just to make sure he was still there. And yep, that's the episode. Now that I've given a brief summary of the episode, let's get into why this episode works so well as a Halloween episode. The beginning of this episode looks like your standard Season 5 episode, with the engines doing their jobs and already getting into the story. The mood and tone suddenly change when Rusty tells his story, and what I think really sells the mood is the music. The score that's used for when the engine falls off the bridge is nothing short of fantastic. The music is very eerie and pretty depressing when you think about it. It also gives a bit of mystery to the story. We're never outright told if Rusty's story is real, which in my opinion gives this piece of score more credit as the last note plays, signaling a sort of mystery to the story. The cinematography is also a great quality to this episode. When the trucks fall off the bridge, the shots kinda mirror the little engine's plunge. Same goes for the shot of Duncan on the bridge. This shot particularly is basically the exact same angle, which makes Duncan running back sorta make sense. Maybe he thought he'd also fall off the bridge. The way I see it, the bridge itself is kinda claustrophobic in a way. The full moon in the background partnered with the rocks give a loss of escape. not to mention this line said by Rusty.
But he never reaches the other side.
Like I said earlier, it's never told to Duncan or the audience if Rusty's story was real, which I think was the best way to go about it. It really makes the audience think and gives a great deal of mystery. Even if Rusty's ghost is just Skarloey's model painted black, it doesn't take away from the tone. This is the first and only time we've seen a character die on screen in Thomas. Duncan's little character arc throughout the episode, where he starts off not believing in the story and being a dick to Peter Sam, to ending with him being put in his place, was also handled really well. It doesn't feel forced and felt really progressive. Overall, Duncan Gets Spooked is one of the best episodes in Thomas and Friends, and is definitely its best spooky-themed episode. And that wraps up this video. I just wanted to make this short little video for Halloween, and if you enjoyed the video, remember to like and subscribe. It helps me out a bunch. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Also, I know I uploaded this on November 2nd. Shut up.